Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Off Script with Pastor Jared. I'm here with a special guest today, my good friend Jeff Patrick, who is what's your official job title?
So I am the pastor to the homeless population down at Memphis Union Mission. There are some other long titles. Used to be the pastor of Grace Church of Memphis, but when COVID hit, we had to shut Grace Church down. But primarily, I'm a shepherd among the homeless guys there at the shelter.
Okay. See, I'm going to learn some things today. I didn't even know that whole thing about Grace Church. I didn't know anything about that, so I'm going to have to ask some questions.
Yeah.
So I asked Brother Jeff Patrick to come in today because he's a Kirby member and has been, and I am generally interested about what goes on at the Memphis Union Mission. I hear I'm scheduled to preach this upcoming Monday, so I'm looking forward to going down there. We're bringing our Kirby crew, and we feed, it would be every month on Monday nights. Every fourth Monday night, is that right?
That's right, every fourth Monday night.
So, and Kirby's been doing that for
several years now.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
It's been a standing appointment. Brother Richard Bach has been handling that like a champ.
Right, he has.
And so, anyway, I thought it would be good to just let our church, our listeners, we have a lot of listeners that don't go to Kirby, but let people know about what you do, what the mission does. Just do a little profile on you. I love interesting people. You're an interesting guy. So we'll have a chance to talk. And I've known your son for a while.
Right.
And I got to know you and your family mainly because I knew Dylan and when he was in high school here at Kirby Woods, and I was helping out in the youth group. So, and he's out doing good things now.
Right.
What's Dylan up to nowadays?
Dylan is on staff at the Orchard Church. He runs their youth department there, or works with the youth department. And he's also flips hamburgers at Huey's as a second job out in Kyville.
I maintain that I think Huey's is my favorite Memphis restaurant. I know there's a lot of opinions. What's your favorite Memphis restaurant?
Well, Huey's is up there with the top, but I think Memphis Pizza Cafe is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
You like the thin pizza then?
I like that thin pizza and their salads and all that, but that's where we go.
Okay, good. I will tell you, y'all, the secret about Huey's. No one talks about their wings. Their wings are really good.
They are. We go get the wings, and Dylan makes the dressing. He won't tell me the...
Wait, he makes the ranch dressing?
He makes the ranch dressing.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Can he get me a gallon of that?
They make it by the gallon, so if you get it, it'd have to be by the gallon. But they really do have good wings.
He can smuggle some out in his undercoat and
right.
give me some. All right, I want to talk about what you do. I want to know your background. All I know is you as Memphis Union Mission guy, but what was Jeff Patrick doing before that? What was life and ministry? And you may have had a secular job before that. I don't even know. Tell me what you were doing before that.
I've really got to cut this down, but I'm a lifetime Memphian. I've only been a member of two churches, Kensington Baptist Church for 31 years. Then I came here.
Wow.
I was in the telephone industry. I was a telephone man. I started my own telephone company for 10 years, had 23 employees doing a couple $1 million a year. I was on a mission trip with Kirby Woods in South Africa, and I was in a Zulu village with my best friend in all the world, and I had been on top of the corporate ladder, and I said, I'm tired of corporate America. This is what I want to do the rest of my life. Came back to America, landed in New York. I had read the book Fresh Wind, Fresh Fire, Fresh Faith, those Jim Cymbala books, and just there was something burning inside of me. Called a taxi cab from the airport, went to the Brooklyn Tabernacle that Sunday morning when we got there. It cost $35. Went to church, wept and cried and begged for that. Called a $35 taxi ride back, so it cost me $70 to go to church that Sunday. And just came back to Memphis with a heartbeat that I wanted to do something in the downtown area. Long story short is that I began considering shutting my company down. September 11th happened. And when that happened, it started a domino effect in the resale of telephone equipment that a lot of us didn't survive. And so here I am looking at wanting to be a bivocational pastor. I had taken some courses at Mid-America. I had gone
about that.
Yeah, I'd gone to the Stephen Olford Institute and taken some expository preaching classes. And I just really had this idea that I'm going to be this pastor that has this income that I don't need to ever ask for money. And that's not part of it. But what I didn't realize was that God was going to take me through personal bankruptcy. And so, the scripture says if you can't take care of your own household, how are you going to take care of the household of God? And so who's going to hire a pastor that's been through bankruptcy? I had Americom Telecommunications. We shut it down. I had Charleston Homes, a house building company on the side. We shut it down, and then we had to file personal bankruptcy on over $1 million. Now, here's where this fits into the picture. So with this thinking, who's going to hire someone? Well, I got invited by someone here at Kirby Woods it was Ty Mathis, a good friend of mine, to go down to the mission to hear him give his testimony. And he gave his testimony in a chapel service. The following month, they asked me to come give my testimony. And then like 2 months later, they asked me, would I be willing to take that one Sunday night a month service, and I did.
They were getting you hooked.
Right. And so I began teaching down there, and I realized that the homeless guys were listening to me. All right. And the guy that was the pastor at the time, he looked and saw that they were listening to me as well. I tell people I teach on the 7th grade, 3rd month level. All right. That's about where my mind is. And I'm about to wrap it up here. And so when I went to work there, I've never been an alcoholic. I've never been a drug addict. I've never been in jail. I've never lived a life of homelessness. But when a guy walks in my office and has lost everything, I can identify with that guy. Yeah. And so God took me through there to humble me and to get me prepared. And I always tell this part of the story is that one night I was walking through the mission, and we had around 300 men, and they were on the floor everywhere. It was a real cold night. And now, Pastor, I've never heard God speak audibly, but I stopped, and a voice inside me said, you see that guy laying on the ground right there? Do you think that I love you more than I love him? And the answer to that is no. And then as I walked away, I heard, do you think I hate his sin more than I hate yours? And I blinked and I looked, and I saw me laying on that mat.
Wow. And
God humbled me big time that night. And so to wrap up the story, that fresh wind, fresh fire, fresh faith, Brother Bob Pittman ordained me for ministry here, and it was to plant a church for Kirby Woods called Grace Church of Memphis down at the Memphis Union Mission, and that's what we did, and we'll talk more about that in just a second.
Well, that's exciting, man. I didn't even know your background and all of those. I didn't know you were the telephone guy. That's good. That's good to know that part of the story too. Man, it's crazy how God uses our backgrounds and brings it together really at a pinch point in our lives to make us go one way or the other.
Right.
So did you feel like at that point, like I have to do this? Was there a sense of calling towards that people, or is it just I'm really effective? I seem to be really effective at this. What was the thing that pushed you to, I'm going to do this for every day of my life? This is what I'm going to do.
Well, there was a burning passion to see God move in the inner city. But another part of it was that when I was up speaking in front of the guys and hanging out with them, the only way that I know to say it is I feel like I was doing what I was created to do. Mm-hmm. It just met that niche. And the other part was there was a period for about 18 months when I worked there part-time when I was shutting my company down that I was working in construction for a member here at Kirby Woods, Jack Young. And so he was, and the whole time I'm working with him, I'm thinking, what are the guys doing at the mission? My heart was there.
Right.
And so that's the biggest part of it is my heart was there. And so they would, after work, I'd go by and just hang out with them.
So, as far as thinking about you now, everyone thinks of you sort of as, pastor guy, minister guy. But when you went into that, how trained did you feel to take on that role? Was it a big leap of faith? Or, you said you had some seminary training. Did you feel like this is an easy task for me? Or did you feel like you really had to learn a lot of new skills to do it?
Man, I'm a golf ball in high weeds. I'm still, even this week, 20 years later, wondering, Lord, are you sure you know what you're doing? I tell people, and this is going to surprise a lot of people, but I barely graduated from high school. I'm a full-blown ADHD kid grown up, I never went to college itself. I had an opportunity, but I went to technical schools for the phone industry. Yes, I took some courses, but I've never been to Bible school. I don't have a degree in anything, and I'm the least likely person to be doing working as a pastor. But he needed I stepped up because I was available to fill a niche that I love to do. When I read about Charles Spurgeon, realize he didn't have any of that either. That's right. Encouraging to me.
Yeah.
But the other part is that I'm one of 6 pastors on staff. There's doctors of divinity. There's guys that got and so when it comes to that type of stuff, I'm surrounded by guys that have all these degrees. But what's ironic about this is, we have chapel twice a day, every day.
Yep.
My responsibility is make sure that someone's there to speak, and if not, I fill in. I preach more than all those other pastors. So here I am, the least degree dude there, but yet I get to preach more than any.
I feel like that's lines up perfectly with the Bible, though. That sounds like a lot of stories I can think of.
Right. And I was trained sitting under the preaching of this church for so many years was just tremendous. I learned so much there.
And I have counts for something.
Right. And I've been in church my whole life. I've never not been in church. I was trained by Herb Hodges for many years. I sat at his kitchen table or dining room table and heard him teach. So I've had a lot of training, but no official training where I can hang something on the wall.
I've heard it said before, too, that good preaching is more caught than taught. So I think there's something to that, especially sitting under good preaching your whole life. I remember when I preached my first sermon, it was before I went to seminary, and all I really did was I thought, what did my dad do? Growing up, I can do that. I think I can do that. So, yeah, that kind of helps give you that confidence that, well, I've heard good preaching before. Well, as far as the way you think of your role there at the mission, do you think of yourself as a pastor, or do you think of yourself more as a nonprofit leader? How do you sort of, when you phrase your role to people and what you do and your responsibilities, how do you think of, are you a fundraiser? How do you, as far as, or is it more ministerial for you, or is it more running the nonprofit side of it?
So my favorite book that I read from time to time is Shepherd of the Hills. It's about a retired pastor that walked out of the ministry and went into the mountains of Branson, Missouri, and he was literally worked among sheep and stuff. It's a wonderful book, but I see myself literally as a shepherd walking among sheep. Okay. I've often said that a shepherd should smell like his sheep. Mm-hmm. I hang out with them, and so that is my primary role, is being there with those guys, loving on them, providing anything that I need to do. Again, I'm over those chapel services, make sure someone is there. My job is not to raise funds, but I love doing that. Mm-hmm. My job is to not to go out and speak and bring awareness to Memphis Union Mission, but I do that because I love this place so much, and it's in my DNA. It's in all that I am. That yes, I do want to go out and talk about it as much as I can.
Okay, take me through the process. If you're and let me just verify, you guys only deal with men. Is that correct? It's not a women, children's shelter?
Well, this is going to surprise you. So we have multiple locations. Where I work is the men's emergency shelter. We're the largest men's shelter in the Mid-South. Secondly, we have a drug and alcohol program for men that starts at the mission, goes out to Calvary Colony. It's 160 acres, 10 miles north of Memphis. By the way, it's got a Frisbee golf course.
Okay, all right.
They come back across the street after 6 months at our third location. It's our extended stay. They stay there for a month. They graduate. And then they go to our halfway house at Tillman and Walnut Grove, and they can stay there for a year. They have to get a job, save 60% of their income, and still have some accountability. We have a women's, not emergency shelter, but a women's drug and alcohol program called Mariah House. A lot of people don't know we own Mariah House.
I did not know.
And then the last thing is we have 5 houses, 3 bedrooms, fully furnished for families to move in rent-free for 6 months. I've been trying to get in it for 10 years, and they won't let me, but we do have these 5 houses. So there's a lot more. System-wide, we did 235,000 plates of food last year, 110,000 nights of lodging. So we don't have a women's emergency shelter. Yes, we primarily deal with men where I'm at, and that's what we focus on.
Okay, well, I'm glad I asked that question. That's a lot more than I thought that was going on down there. So walk me through the process for your average homeless man that shows up or gets connected to the mission. What's their experience? What sort of do they go through? What's their, from A to B to C? And what do you like to see like a success? What would a success be for someone who shows up, goes through a process and completes whatever you want for them? What's a win?
So I've got to step back just a little bit. First of all, there is generational poverty. People that have always lived in poverty, their parents lived in poverty, and they know nothing but poverty. They're usually chronically homeless, and they're going to be homeless or in poverty the rest of their life unless something happens. The second situation is situational poverty. There's someone whose house is burnt down, something's happened, and the situation has caused them to step into Memphis Union Mission or any shelter. Nationwide, the average person who comes into homelessness will get out within 21 days.
Okay.
That'll shock you, a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, for example, over the month of September, we've had 20-something young men come in from Venezuela. They dropped them off at our front door. They had all the paperwork they needed. They came in. These guys could not speak a lick of English. But within 10 to 12 days, every one of those guys were able to go out and secure a job. And then once they got their first paycheck, they started sharing hotel rooms. They were there for a while, and now they're out getting their own places. That's what we love to see. That happens if you became homeless. Same thing. You've got a network, but if you ended up down there, you would probably be out of homelessness within 2 to 3 weeks once you get that first check. But then there's the guys that are chronically homeless. They've been down there for years. I have been there 20 years, and there's 2 men that have been there longer than me.
Wow.
All right. And so there's a variety of homelessness. There's the guys that get an income. They have lived in the towers all throughout Memphis, the Memphis Housing Authority. They are full of dope. They're full of thugs and full of a lot of other things. And so they can move into the Memphis Union Mission. They can rent a bed, if you will, for a month. They stay there. They get their sheets changed every day. They get 3 meals, and they get protection where nobody messes with them. So we're as much of a boarding house for these older guys as we are an emergency shelter for the young guys. But we love to see people come in. I'm going to tell you Daryl's story very quickly. Daryl was down in New Orleans. Hurricane Katrina hit. He got sent up to Memphis. He did the same thing in Memphis that he did down in New Orleans, and he got in a lot of trouble. Ended up at Memphis Union Mission, joined our drug program. He got saved in there. I baptized him. Then I discipled him. He moved to our transition house. He was there for a little over a year. He rode a bus every day. He would ride the bus for about an hour and a half or so to get to this job. Him and 2 other guys, he would work 10, 12 hours, then he'd ride the bus back. He saved enough money to buy a car. When he got the car, so what he'd do, those other 2 guys, instead of paying $3.50 a day to ride the bus, they rode with him. They paid him money for riding. So now he's riding free, okay?
Yep.
So after about a year working there, he did something he's never done. He put a down payment and bought his first house, a 3-bedroom house. Well, what do you think he did with those other 2 bedrooms?
Rented them out.
He rented them out to those other 2 guys. And so that's a perfect success story that I could sit here and tell you dozens and dozens and dozens of times.
Mm-hmm. So as far as guys coming in and leaving, how much of it is guys coming in for the day, getting a meal or staying the night versus guys that are staying for a length of time? I'm just trying to get my head around, is it a place where guys tend to stay, or is it a place where, is it a pop-in kind of place?
Well, it's both. Again, there are people that use us for boarding house. And let me tell you this, we're not trying to warehouse homeless guys. We really want them to go and get their own place and move out.
Your goal is for them to leave.
Absolutely. I tell them all the time, God didn't bring us here to be a retirement home.
Okay.
All right. But there are guys that are out working. Probably a third of the guys stay there have a job.
Okay.
And they're out working for labor companies and different restaurants and Kroger's and other places, and they come in. But these guys have unpaid child support that pulls out about 40% of their checks. So where are you going to live in Memphis on $15 an hour, pay rent, utilities, buy your food, and they'll have 40% of your check? So they prepay a bed, and so for $186, they get that bed that's reserved for them every night. They come in, have dinner, they take a shower, they sleep in a good bed, and they go to work the next day.
Tell me about your new facility, because I've heard a lot about it. I haven't been there since I've moved back to Memphis. I'll be there on Monday, but give me just, how did that happen? How did that come about? Because from everyone that's talked to me, they've said, you've got to see it. It's great.
It's so nice that I call it the Taj Mahal. All right, and so. So in our little building, we started in 1945. We were downtown in an old saloon, if you will. I know we call them bars today, but back then they called them saloon. They took it over. They put the men in there. In 1961, 62, they built the building where we currently are. We were in there for all these years, and we were confined to what we could do because of how small the building was. We were breaking every fire code, and I say that jokingly. We had no idea what the code were, and the fire department didn't know how many we were supposed to be in there, but we slept way too many men for many years during the wintertime. And so we began to dream what would happen if we had the right facility. What could we do? We have a board of directors. They began meeting. And so we laid out what, they came in and said, dream, what would you like to do if money were not an option? So we did. We dreamed out loud, and they wrote all these things down. 5 years later, we had a building built. It was $23 million. To build everything where we are. And it's not a super plush building, but when you build something that has to be earthquake resistant, tamper proof, vandal resistant, and all these things, it costs a lot of money to do these things. And so they built this building, and most people know we don't get a dime of government money because we're gospel centered. We have that chapel twice a day. And so the people of Memphis and the Mid-South gave $23 million. Wow. And when we prayed, God, if this is you, lead ahead. Go ahead of us, and it was paid for before we ever moved in.
Wow. So you could get government money if you dropped some of the Christian distinctives.
Used to get government money before I got there. We got a couple $100,000 in some kind of, it was not really money, but the ability to use this money to buy foods and stuff like that. And Scott Bjork, who's the president of the mission, came in, and they told him that you can't use this money and require men to go to chapel. And he said, well, we no longer need your money. Now, what's important about this is that we were in the red financially at the time. When he made that statement and got them out of there, it hit news radio and some other programs. People got behind the mission. And when we got the government out, we went from being in the red to being in the black within 6 months.
Wow.
And for years, we've had enough money in the mission that if everything stopped, we could continue to run for 4 to 6 months without missing a heartbeat. That's
awesome.
How secure it is. A lot of people have been given to it. And so we moved into this new facility. We now have places where men can sit, and they're not on top of each other. We've got a nice eating facility. We're now in phase 2 where we're building our worship center and more dorms. When we're done, it'll be 100,000 square feet, and there'll be enough beds for 320 men to lay their heads in a bed. There'll be another place for 200 mats on the floor to be laying down, so we'll be able to sleep around 500 men a night if we need to, and then we'll have a worship center that will seat about 350 people.
Wow. That's awesome. I love the fact that it sort of took on a Christian identity, and that the Christians of Memphis, the churches of Memphis, I'm guessing the churches are a big part of what you do. Tell me a little bit about the support that you get from the area. And it seems like it's really beloved by Memphis people and Memphis churches.
Well, Memphis churches love to come there and serve, and Memphis churches love to send money, okay? But this is going to surprise you. Churches giving us money makes up less than 6% of our total budget.
I'm surprised again. Keep it coming. This is good.
And think about Kirby. I've been a member here a long time. We want to shotgun approach and hit as many ministries as we can.
Right.
And so when churches and we're grateful for it, but $100 a month or $500 a month from all these churches is good, but it takes a lot of money to run a facility. We have 30-something employees. I mean, just in the old building, our light, gas, and water bill was $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
In this new building, which is 5 times bigger, just in phase 1, it has to be more, and so it takes a lot to do this industry. And let me tell you this: even though we are a 501(c), I do not use that word parachurch. I don't like that word.
Okay, I was going to ask about that. That's good.
We don't come alongside the church. We are the church in action. I'm a missionary of Kirby Woods Baptist Church, have been all these years. And so we are not a church where the church comes in to worship Jehovah God and to train, but we are an outreach of the church. And so at Grace Church, which I told you earlier, we had it shut down, we baptized over 400 individuals there. We went on mission trips to Africa and to Haiti and to Mexico and different places. I've got men that were once homeless that had been out on the mission field. And so we've done things that other churches, don't see. And so anyway, but I don't like that term parachurch, because we are not a church, but we are the church working. And so Kirby Woods comes down there. You guys will bring in the food. You'll cook the food. You'll serve the food. And so it's like you get to carry anywhere from 10 to 20 to 30 people from Kirby Woods out on the mission field. And they get to work in a community, in a culture that's not quite like theirs, but then they get to sleep in their own bed every night.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So where's the 94% coming from? Individuals?
I tell people a lot of it is the blue-haired old ladies whose husbands got sober there 50 years ago that's been sending in all this money. There are some companies that give. There's individuals. A lot of people send money down there. A lot of it is coming in from estates where people have died, and they've given money to it because, it's got a good name. We've been around since 1945. Thousands of people have had their lives changed there. Mm-hmm. A lot of people come through and serve. When COVID hit, the giving at Memphis Union Mission went way up, not down. And I don't know if because people weren't going to church and weren't giving there, but we had some record-breaking months through the months when nobody could come in but the homeless people. Mm-hmm. The second thing about COVID is while churches were shut down, we didn't shut down.
Right.
We kept the churches out because we didn't want them to bring the virus inside, but our men were there. And so for many months, we didn't have a touch of the virus anywhere. Nobody got sick from it, and then when it came in, it finally did hit some people, and we had some people die. But we had to be there every day doing what we do with hundreds of men in that building with no ability to social distance at all.
Right. That's impossible.
Right. It was. But we had the health department and everybody working alongside with us all the time. And so while everybody was shut down, we were doing this every day.
So if a church wants to partner, what do you generally tell them to do? Or someone gets excited about what you're doing, what do you tell them?
Well, the first thing they can do is they can just come and serve a meal that we've cooked, and they can just come and serve. We even have non-Christian groups that do this. Believe it or not, we've had Jewish groups come in. We have Muslims that come in. We have ball teams that come in. FedEx was in there yesterday. A lot of people come and just serve meals. The second thing they can do is they can actually come in and they can do what Kirby does. They can bring the food, cook the food, and actually serve it out. Okay. And then the third thing is if they'd like to, and if they are in agreement with our theology and they're evangelical, they can actually take a service. And that's part of my job is I make sure that we're in agreement theologically on the things that we major about before they can ever speak into a chapel. We are interdenomination. We work with multiple denominations, but they have to be evangelical and they have to be in agreement with the main basis of what we believe in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Well, here's a question I had that I want to ask you is, what do you think that your average person does not know or understand about homelessness that you have learned in your time serving there? What's something that people may take for granted or just not understand or think they know but they don't know?
I could write a book on this. The guy standing on the corner holding the sign that says, "I need help, God bless," is generally, even though he is homeless, he's not someone who would ever come to Memphis Union Mission. All right?
Okay.
Those guys, if they're not making $50 a day, then they need to go do something else. The average guy knocks down between $75 to $100 a day. Now think about it. There'll always be one guy on this corner and one on that corner.
It's often the same guy, too.
Right, every day. Why? They're making a good money for them. So if I've got $75 and you got $75, we're not going to go pay $5 or $6 to stay in a shelter somewhere. We're going to go rent a hotel room at Rainbow Inn or wherever. We're going to pay the $35, and that way we're going to drink what we want to drink, smoke what we want to smoke, do what we want to do. We've each got a bed. We take a hot shower and go back out and do it. So it's a lifestyle for a lot of these guys. Panhandlers are, even though they are, quote, homeless, but they're sleeping in hotels hotels and stuff. Now, there's the other guy that's under the bridge, and there's not that many of those guys in Memphis. There's a couple, but not a lot of them.
Do we have the big camps that you hear about, in the big cities like L.A. and San Francisco? Do we have that?
Not like they do. There have been some downtown and some other areas, but and I know that for a while when a lot of the movements were taking place, they were camping downtown. But what happens is they begin to it litters up. And I know we're church taught, but they urinate and defecate and fornicate in all those camps and stuff, and they have to be shut down because of all the activity that happens there. So we don't see a lot of camps. So the first thing is that panhandlers would hardly ever stay. But let me tell you this, the number one cause or excuse is I need money to get into a mission.
Yeah.
All right. And they always say $7. And there's not a mission anywhere in Memphis that charges $7, what's ironic.
Okay. That's good to know.
Second thing is, when we moved into our new facility the week of Thanksgiving, I want everybody to understand that we became the first free shelter in the city of Memphis. And so while historically every men's shelter in Memphis charges money, $5, $6, $9, whatever they are, we went to a free shelter. How do you build a $23 million building and charge people to come into it?
Yeah.
So the lie is that a lot of, and I heard it this week, the guys are saying, well, the mission now is charging $8 or $10. But if a guy comes in between 9 in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he can come in every day free of charge.
Wow. Okay.
And so we're the first free shelter.
So if you're hearing that, you're being sold a lie.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The second thing that I want people to realize, I kind of touched on, is the average person coming in homelessness is going to be out of homeless within 19 or 21 days. But I have had bank vice presidents in there. I've had pilots that stay there. I've had people, in other words, getting involved in making bad decisions hits people all across the board. And it would shock you of the people. I mean, I've had bosses that were my bosses in the past that ended up because of alcoholism there. I've had people that were in the Christian community that their kids ended up down there. I mean, just there was a professional boxer that boxed Muhammad Ali that ended up in a homeless shelter at one time. Just the people that would end up there would really shock you. And so everybody that's in a shelter is not some poor homeless guy that grew up in poverty in a ghetto somewhere. It really reaches all across the board.
Well, I want to push on the panhandling thing because I think there's a lot of guilt in, especially Christians, good-hearted Christians. You drive by, I mean, help me, because I have a problem with this. Personally, I struggle with this. You drive by, you see someone that looks like they're hurting, they're holding the sign, and you're thinking about all the passages of Scripture in your mind. You know, you gave me a cup of cold water and gave me your cloak and, all the things Jesus said. And there's this immense feeling of this is for me to help. I need to fix this. I need to help this. Is that right? Or do you see that there's a different way to think about that? Or how do you generally counsel people when it comes to panhandlers or people walking in on the street, things like that?
You have to be led by the Holy Spirit because there are some people that really have needs. And then there are others that it's just a scam to make money. You've seen the videos, I'm sure, where they dress down and they go out and they panhandle and make a lot of money, and then they go back and change and get in their Mercedes. I mean, that literally does happen. Right across from Kirby Woods is a gentleman that stands on the corner, has these big signs that when you give, you help the homeless, you help the veterans.
Yes.
I know him.
Yeah, they hit the veteran card, and you're just like, man.
So let me tell you this. That guy came through the shelter. When the Bridge newspaper came out, he started selling. He does very well across the street. He has cancer. I know him, all right? And even though he is a vet, all right, I sometimes give him money because I know him. He's not out drinking and drugging and stuff like that. But he has an income, and he makes good money there. He has a place where he's not homeless. He has a place.
Okay.
But that's his job every day to get up and go panhandle right across the street from Kirby Woods, right down here at the corner.
Yeah.
And so because I know him and I've spent time with him, I don't ever mind people giving him $1 to buy the newspaper. But if I really want to get money, I'm going to get a puppy dog to sit next to me. Man, ladies are suckers for puppy dogs.
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing is really got to be careful is these guys that bring their kids and their wife sit out there. And so you can literally go to them and say, hey, do you want to work? And 9 times out of 10, no, I don't.
See, that's I think where a lot of people hit the struggle is we hear unemployment numbers and we see help wanted signs everywhere. And every restaurant we go to, we hear understaffed, sorry, or at every store, there's one exhausted employee circling the Walgreens or wherever you are. And you're just thinking, man, it's hard for I just think, am I struggling with compassion here, or is there something else going on that I think, hey, you need to be able to work in order to eat, and that kind of hits something in you, and you think, come on, man, there's jobs everywhere. How do you talk to people that feel that way and that are struggling with just in general compassion for homelessness?
Well, most of them dress pretty dirty looking. And if they walked into a business, will you hire me? The answer is going to be no.
Okay.
If they're coming off of dope and stuff like that, and they've got the jitters, most people are not going to hire them. In the past, if they had a felony or something like that, FedExes and Amazons and those, they couldn't get a job if you had come out of jail and you had a felony. These days, like you just said, there's so many places looking for workers. I mean, as long as you haven't killed anybody in the last 30 days with the smoke gun in your pocket, a lot of places will hire you that wouldn't have 5 years ago. And so there are a lot of openings for jobs. Here's what I've challenged churches to do. How many churches are in Memphis? We're the second most church city in the United States behind Dallas, Texas. Okay? What if every church that had the means would find somebody like that, whether it's a family or individual, and basically, I'm going to use the word adopt them, find a place to put them, hold them accountable, make sure they've got clothing, make sure that they had, or we're going to drive you to the job, but we're going to help you manage your money. And if we just took one individual, we could end homelessness within a month or two, okay? Mm-hmm. But I will tell you that we're going to fail 9 times out of 10 because most of the guys, as soon as they get money in their pocket, they're going to go back to the dope house or whatever. But still, there are those that pull out. And so because of the failure rate, we're scared to do that. But I've had other churches down Poplar that have done that, and after they learn something, and then about the 3rd or 4th guy, they begin learning how to do that. And so one church right down the street actually had a room. Their church had shrunk in size, and they had a room, and they put the guy, and he was kind of working as a security guard at the church. And about the 3rd or 4th guy they brought in, it began to succeed. And so there are things that we can do where we can sit down. I tell people, and you have to feel comfortable doing this, sit down and talk to them. Hear their story. Find out what they are. And then get to know, have a Jeff Patrick that you know about, that when you come up to someone like that, you can call me on my cell phone number and say, Jeff, I'm with this person here. Here's their need. What should we do? And I can tell you, contact the hospitality hub, call the Dorothy Day House, whatever, and I can direct you to the places that can reach out and help people that it would be harder for an individual church who doesn't know what to do.
I think that's why churches really love the Memphis Union Mission, because a lot of times we feel so under-equipped to deal with this, especially when, walk-ins to your church or people camping near your church or standing outside, people with real hard problems that go beyond what we're used to in our sanitized life. Here's what I always struggle with, just being open here. I struggle with, when you're leading a church, how much do you outsource and say, here's what we do with homelessness is we support the Memphis Union Mission, and that's what we're going to do, and we'll bus you down there, or, and we'll give them money, and we'll send our team down there. But here on this campus, that's about it. We may give you a card, a gift card.
A bus card.
Yeah, a bus card to get you there, versus trying to take a piece of what you do there and replicate it here. How do you feel about that? Sort of, is there value in our church having? We do food boxes. We do, but we take them out to homes. But having a food pantry or having a clothes closet, I just worry that sometimes you bite off more than you can chew when you get into this world, and it can get out from under you quick.
Have you ever seen these movies where the spy will walk up to a mailbox and he puts an X on the mailbox to identify, okay, here's where you drop something? In other words,
yeah.
once you start giving out sandwiches and start treating people and doing stuff where they can come there, then more will show up because word spreads. And
Right.
so if you are handing out sack lunches to everybody who shows up, it won't be long. They'll start coming in every day. And then you might be at a point where, hey, let's open our kitchen up every day at lunch, and then you'll be in the homeless ministry. And
Yeah.
there are churches that need to do that because they have homelessness in there. So I was part of the Downtown Clergy's Association for years. I'm still a member there. And they were having the same homeless people go from church to church to church. And so we created an organization called the Hospitality Hub. They're on Washington Avenue for a Lifetime Memphian. They're down there where the inspection station used to be, right across the street from the mission. They are the hub of information of everything homeless. So if you get a situation, you can call the hub during business hours, and they will tell you, here's the organization you need to contact to help them. If they have no ID, they can help them get ID. If they need emergency housing, they can do that if they're a veteran. And so there are organizations set up to help people do that. But the problem is a lot of churches don't know about this.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't. The Hospitality Hub on Washington, everybody.
Right. And I wish I had their number, BR549, call them now. But we don't need to recreate the wheel. But I want to tell you, it's better to do something and do it wrong than do nothing at all.
Okay.
I would, in other words, if we're never prepared to give somebody $1 or $2, bottled water during the summertime or a cap or something, I tell people there's nothing wrong with having a couple things in your vehicle just in case you run into something. And the Lord says, touch. I mean, I have pulled aside and bought people meals. I have gone and bought meals and brought back to them. And here's another way you can tell. There's always a panhandler on a certain corner. Look about 50 or 100 feet away from him. You're going to see a bag, a box, or something somewhere with all the stuff that he's gathered. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you'll see a bunch of trash at their feet and stuff like that. And so you just kind of got to look around. But we need to get a little bit smarter. But I would rather people make a mistake in doing something than getting hard and doing nothing at all.
I hear you. I think that's really wise because you can become jaded about the whole situation and think, hey, come on, man, you need to get a job. And by that point, it's more about the damage that's being done in your heart when you can't see, because someone will have a need and you will be unable to even see it because you've said no so many times. So I think that's the challenge. That's really good, and it's just hard in a local church because you want to be a church first, and you don't want to have something that gets away from you. Like you said, the fear is you start having a homeless ministry that has a church on the side, and you want to be careful not to have that because you want to make the main thing, the main thing. Mm-hmm. But and you guys are so equipped to do it. It's hard for churches to say we could replicate anything of what you do because you guys have it down. You have the well-oiled machine.
But there's also a lot of people we don't reach. And so this leads me to another one of those things I really wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
There's a book called When Helping Hurts, and another one called Toxic Charity. But When Helping Hurts, and that's where I got that it's better to do something than do nothing, okay? But churches want to help, and so they go downtown, and they set up across the street from Memphis Union Mission. They start feeding the homeless. Right. All right. And so you're now feeding across the street from the largest feeding station in the Mid-South. It's insane. And so, and it doesn't work. It's not as harmful as it used to be, and a lot has changed with this new building. So it's Sunday morning. Grace Church is getting ready to start. We started at 10:30. At 10:15, a church pulls up across the street from the mission. They open up their trunk. They lay out tables, and they start laying out food. What does every homeless guy do at 10:15 in the morning? When we're getting ready to have church, they go right out that front door. They cross Poplar Avenue, almost get hit by cars. They stand in line, and now we have to start our service at 11:30. All right. Kirby Woods would be down there years ago, and they would be flipping hamburgers out on the grill during the summer. And they would look at the old inspection station, and they'd see a church over there feeding people, and they're like, why are we here cooking these hamburgers and spending hundreds of dollars when they're over there eating right now?
Right.
All right. And then another part, and this is just kind of the heartbeat, hard side of homelessness, but then you would cook this food and prepare it, And then you'd see the guys eat a bite of a burger and eat the dessert and just throw everything away. And you're saying, man, they're throwing all this away. Why are we even doing this? And so one of the things that churches would do that was harmful is that they would come and try to serve the same people. And literally back in the day, a homeless person could eat on Saturday and Sunday between 7 and 12 times if they knew how to do the tramp trail just right.
It's like walking around Sam's Club for the demo carts.
Right, right.
The little toothpick over here and over there.
Now so what we've changed is once you come inside the mission, you check in now. You can't go back out. If you go back out our door, then we'll see you tomorrow. That's one of the things we've changed. Second thing is we used to be open in the community for men and women, anybody to come in and eat lunch, then go back out, and we would check in afterwards. Well, because of COVID and a lot of other stuff, insecurity, now the only way you come into the Memphis Union Mission is actually to check in.
Gotcha.
And so, and I could go on and on. What can churches do to help us do what we do? Number one is we ask churches to do Undie Sunday, where everybody bring in packages of tidy white underwear. All right, because we do 250 to 300 showers a day. Where do these guys get their clean underwear from? And so we don't go out and buy it. We depend upon churches to do Undie Sunday.
Man, we might need to do Undie Sunday here, but I'm afraid what people would show up in their underpants.
That's true. You'd have to clearly lay that out. Socks. We need socks. And so everything that a man would need, that's what we need. And by the way, the reason we ask for white socks and white underwear, because I can wash those, use a lot of Clorox, and we do reuse those.
What about things like, your staples like toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, that kind of stuff?
Absolutely, all that stuff. What I don't need is suits and ties.
Right.
I don't need dress shoes. I don't need women and children's clothing or anything like that. Mariah House is well taken care of. When it comes to donations, and we get a lot of donations, we get probably 3, 4, 5 times as much women's stuff, even though we don't have than we do men's.
I wonder that's because women actually give their clothes away, or they have the excess clothes to donate or something.
Well, I mean, most men have got the same pair of underwear they had in high school.
Yeah,
in other words, you go. Tammy and I have a walk-in closet, and you go on my side, and there's a lot of space. You can't even get another shirt in her shirt side. So they have a lot more stuff than we do.
That's true. Well, we'll close with this question: what is the future of Memphis Union Mission when you look forward and you, we'll say, keep dreaming like you did for the original building, but if you keep looking forward and say, here's what's coming in the next 5-10 years, whether you have a hard copy plan or whether it's just what you'd like to see, what do you think of when you think of the future?
We're going to be able to do things that we never could dream about before. We're creating a track system. When you come to Memphis Union Mission, you're going to have to get one of 5 tracks to get out of homelessness. And you're welcome to Memphis Union Mission. We're going to give you 60 days free of charge. We're going to help you. But within 60 days, you need to either have a job or in work, Job Corps or something to be getting income to get out of here. Or you need to be in a housing type program where we're working on getting you housing, or you need to be in a veterans program, or you need to be, in a drug and alcohol rehab program. We want you to come in and meet with counselors, meet with, certified people that can help you and get you on a track to get out of homelessness.
So you're hitting the process as soon as you get there.
Right. And we're not there now. We can do a little bit. So I have to depend on other organizations to help us do those things. The number one organization in Memphis that is helping people find housing is Catholic Charities. Okay. And so I send people there. Well, there's a lot of that's happening. The second thing, I see us becoming more of an international outreach. Phase 3, when we finally finish building all this whole big Taj Mahal that we're building, is going to have classrooms for English as second language. We're going to have classrooms for GED. We're going to be able to do a lot for the community. Yeah. And so we have talked about our 20-year plan is, number one, we probably will have satellite locations. Where I'm at will be the mothership, but then we'll have these other locations out where if you're in Binghamton, you end up there, you get 3 to 5 days to stay there, but after that, you have to go downtown and get into the system.
Okay, so that'll cut down on maybe the having to bus people downtown.
Right.
Yeah. Good.
And then the final thing is now that there is a women's emergency shelter right across the street from the Memphis Union Mission that hospitality hub owns, the number one need for homelessness in the city of Memphis is affordable, safe housing. And so a third of my men could move out if there was housing. And so we own literally, a lot of people don't know this, we own half the neighborhood across the street from us.
Okay.
A lot of those ghettos were torn down. We bought all the property. It's sitting there. People don't know that we own it. We're keeping it clean and everything. But a 20-year plan is, I would love to see us have an apartment complex or housing or something where you have to go through our gates to get there, and the men that are there are in a place that they can afford, that is safe, that has access to the Christian community, and they can't come in and drunk and high and can't bring prostitutes or stuff like that in.
You can control a little bit more.
Control what they're doing, but yet give them their own place to stay. And that's why some of those guys, even though we're a free shelter, they're paying that $186 a month now, because that's Johnny's bed every night. Every night, that's his bed, that's his locker. He gets those meals and everything, and so that's a sense of ownership. Mm-hmm. I've literally had guys that have moved out of the mission and got in apartments where they didn't know anybody. It was in the wrong part of town, and they began to drink themselves to death, and they missed the community of playing the cards and the dominoes and watching football and hanging out, that they've moved back to the mission. And so I believe one day there's going to be, not only we have the track system, but we're going to have affordable, safe housing for people to live in.
That would be a huge deal.
Right.
And especially, like you said, that's a Memphis need.
Right.
There's places everywhere you look at the apartments and you just think, how does anybody live there? The safety concerns and all that. So if you guys could do that, that would be awesome. I look forward to that being able to be done. What do you think a timeline it would be on something like that? Is that a 10-year goal? Is that
I think that's the 20-year goal.
20 years, that's a big one.
Yeah, and I'm 60. I'm the kid on the block. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of what we're doing right now is we are planting a shade tree. When you plant a shade tree, you don't plant it for you. You plant it for the generations behind you. Mm-hmm. We have built a facility and building more and more and doing this so that the young guys, like Brother Isaac sitting over there, the young guys coming along, that they can come in and take the baton and run with it even farther and do things. So we're setting up and building a shade tree in the city of Memphis that the next generation will be able to take it and run a lot farther with it.
Man, I hope we run. That's a great thing. Well, awesome talking to you, Brother Jeff. It was just, I learned a lot. I mean, I'm telling you, I did not know a lot of the things that you shared, and we appreciate your wisdom. I know people are big fans of the Memphis Union Mission here at Kirby Woods and all over Memphis. So thanks for coming in. Thanks for chatting. And I'm glad to have you more frequently here on Sunday mornings as well at Kirby.
This is my home church. If I'm not preaching, generally, I'm going to be here.
I love it. Love it. I get encouraged to see you out there. So glad to have you as a part of Kirby Woods too. Everybody, thanks for listening today to this episode of Off Script with Pastor Jared. Leave us a rating and a review. Shoot me any suggestions for new episodes or people you'd like me to get with, or topics to pastor@kirbywoods.org, and join a Bible-believing, gospel-preaching church and go there on Sunday, and don't leave. God bless.